Yeah, we're back. We're live. We're here. We're healthy. All of us. Isn't that nice? Not everybody in the world is healthy. So we're talking about where the pandemic goes from here with Tim Apicella, Stephanie Stoll-Dalton, Cynthia Lee Sinclair, and Winston Welch. And what's happened is we've had a year of isolation, a year of threat and danger, but now the White House is telling us that we're going to see a light at the end of the tunnel, and it seems and CDC sounds a little optimistic. They issued a press release today about people who have vaccines, but query: are we really at the end of the throw here? Do we have a light at the end of the tunnel? So let me go around and ask you guys how it has been for you in terms of, being healthy, being sick, being threatened, being scared, getting a vaccine, and where you see it going now for you. Tim?
Good morning, Jay. Today I just have to break out full of optimism and joy. I mean, we saw President Biden come out to the Rose Garden not more than 40 minutes ago, and the answer was on his face. He didn't have a mask. Neither did Vice President Harris. She didn't have a mask. And to make the announcement to further the CDC's announcement that no mask will be required indoors or outdoors, that people who have been fully vaccinated and the 2-week time lapse has occurred, that they're protected. They're very, very low risk of contracting COVID. And I just think that's something we've been waiting for since March of 2020. And what a great piece of news that was. And
did you accept it in its entirety?
In its entirety, I do. Now, again, President Biden said that there is a very, very slight risk that you can contract it, but certainly it probably will not be life-threatening. Again, maybe in the population of 330 million, there's always an anomaly here and there. It's not a hard and fast rule for everything and everybody. But what I saw in this briefing was kind of a fusion of FDR and Frank Sinatra, because he said, better days are here again, and the best is yet to come. And then he went off script and he said, don't ever bet against the American people. And I think that was a jab at the Chinese and Donald Trump. So great news. He said that 70%, he's hoping by July 4th, will be received their second vaccination shot. He said that, there's 80,000 locations where you can get your shot, and 90% of people live within 5 miles of one of those vaccination locations. This was really good news. The devil in the detail, of course, is how this is going to be implemented. How will schools now look at this new CDC guideline, and whether or not they still require vaccination now for enrollment? Or employers, will they require a vaccination passport card? Look at the military. How will restaurants want to deal with this to gain confidence from their patrons? Will they require that their workers are vaccinated before they enter the workplace? And how do we track these vaccinations? So, there's a lot yet to be done, but I think this is a really good day for news, and I'm just elated, and I think most people will be.
Okay, the proof will be in the pudding. Stephanie, your experience and how you're feeling about it now.
I'm feeling not so terrified anymore. I actually confess that I was really afraid that it was going to get me and kill me. And so because I thought, oh no, it's everywhere. And so I was even asking my dentist sister to give me all her masks before we even had to have them, or give me an extra box or one. And also, what I was wanting to wear gloves. Why aren't going to wear gloves? Because anything you touch can have this. So I did freak a bit, because I have read Main Street and some other novels about people that die of typhus or some other bubonic plague thing because they picked up a cigarette butt in an ashtray that was smoked by somebody that had been infected. But anyway, maybe too much of that reading. But I was determined to follow the directions and listen to the guidance. And of course, I think being in Hawaii was helpful too, because most people were very self-disciplined throughout this. And of course, all of the Asian countries have been wearing masks for decades and centuries, and put them on for the common cold even and flu symptoms. So anyway, I felt fortunate to be in Hawaii, and that it was outstanding in the country for the level of its infection rate, which I think is all due to the citizens of Hawaii who follow directions and try really hard and think about other people and try to keep aloha in the air instead of the bug, this deadly bug.
Now,
Anyway,
how are you going to conduct yourself going forward, Stephanie?
I'm throwing out all my masks. I'm so sick of it. I am sick of it. And I went to, and even this morning I got on the bike or whatever downstairs to exercise, and I could barely breathe, with the mask on and trying to do some exercise. So then when this news came up, I'm like, what? We're done with this? Let's go. Hey, I am thrilled with President Biden. I mean, it looks like he came around just as soon as he had the permission or the influence from the science. The science says we're there. But I don't think that we should let down our guard, and we need to be very conscious of when we're in areas where there may be infection, because a lot of people aren't vaccinated and maybe didn't get a chance to get it. And so I think we'd better keep our heads screwed on and be aware. We need to be aware of where we might be able to be infected.
Okay. Thank you, Stephanie. What about you, Cynthia? Can you talk about your experience and your current state of mind and plan to deal with whatever has to be dealt with?
So I'm immunocompromised. So the threat of this virus for me was worse than just your average person. And so I was terrified. I really didn't go anywhere. And now what I'm finding is I'm having this so I wasn't afraid too bad because I was home, right? I wasn't exposed. I could control it because I wasn't going anywhere. And like Stephanie, super grateful that I'm here in Hawaii, where it's not nearly as bad as the mainland and other and the respectful behavior. I don't ever go anywhere where people aren't wearing masks here in Hawaii. So that gave me a lot of security. Now we're opening back up again. I have to go back out into the world. I'm as afraid now, I think, as I was in the very beginning. I went out to lunch yesterday. It was like my first time going anywhere but like the doctors or the pharmacy. And I felt like I had to look over my shoulder at everybody, and nobody was social distancing. And I'm just like, I wanted to get really small and run out of the restaurant. And this whole, I know you guys are so excited about no more masks. That kind of scares me because we don't know who doesn't have a vaccine and who does. I think I feel a little safer here in Hawaii than some places like on the mainland where they're still having surges going on, or people that don't believe, where there's a lot of Trumpers that don't believe in getting vaccines. That kind of scares me because how do you know, right? So my first question was, how do you know who's been vaccinated? They say if you're vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask. And I think, oh, great, give everybody that doesn't want a vaccine license to not have to wear one and hide. So I'm still kind of scared. That's my bottom line.
Okay, Winston, how about you? Are you in agreement? Do you have a similar experience, or was it different in some way?
It feels like this announcement is both late and premature at the same time. The reality is people have been doing this in Florida or Texas or these states where they have no rules at all, and where was it? Didn't Tucker Carlson say it's child abuse if you have your child wearing a mask? I mean, stupid. But I'm happy to hear this. What I wanted to see a little bit more of was that if you have this, you're not transmitting it to other, if you've had your shots, that you're not transmitting it. And I could read it in there, in that announcement, but it wasn't sort of highlighted. It says it cuts the risk of getting infected and spreading the virus to others. But
That's
it doesn't really
interesting.
talk about if you're able to spread it to others, but let's just assume that you can. Then what we've just witnessed then is that the people who went and got the vaccine can lead normal lives. And essentially, for those other folks that didn't get it, they're just assuming that the hospitals can keep up with any illness that comes down the pike. I mean, at the end of the day, this thing is still going to be spread if you've only got 60% of your people vaccinated, or it might come around in part 3 that we don't know about yet, or something, in the fall, or maybe this a super combination will come. We don't know that yet. So it seems a little bit premature. And I'm with Cynthia, like when we're going out now, there's a lot of articles out there on how you got to reintegrate yourself by taking those baby steps and kind of being freaked out when being around people or touching anything was going to kill you a year ago. And we have to think about that. We didn't know, is this the Black Death? Are they going to have the bell ringing to say, bring out your dead? Or we didn't know. We just saw the bodies stacking up in Italy and then New York. And China shutting down completely. So there was something there that if you didn't have the fear of God in you, then you probably weren't paying attention. Now people are wondering, oh, was this some giant conspiracy to get us all registered or show us your papers or whatever? It's not that either. I think this is an actual disease that hit and killed indiscriminately and rapidly, mostly people who are older and sicker. Our society responded in a way that we've never responded to on a global level instantly. Everyone experienced this in real time, which is also very interesting. It's not gone yet. If you haven't gotten your vaccine, you need to get your vaccine. You need to do it to protect yourself and your loved ones. So it's not over yet.
Let me go to Tim on that very point. Tim, this is an extraordinary moment because it happens suddenly. If you asked me a few days ago, I would have the same fear that I had before. And I would be concerned about variants, and I would be concerned about, transmission between countries. Legitimately concerned. I mean, those are correct concerns a few days ago. Now it's like the mantle is lifted and we can all shed our concerns. But query, I'd like to talk about the dark side, if you don't mind, you guys. What about the variants? Because it's not entirely clear. I don't know if Biden mentioned it. It's not entirely clear that the vaccines that are in use stop the variants. Maybe some do, some don't. Maybe it's a question of degree. But that's what happened in India. The South African variant came by way of UK to India, and nothing stopped it. And it's still happening. As we are enjoying and celebrating Biden's remarks, India is dying by the hundreds of thousands. So, I mean, what are your thoughts about, whether this really solves the problem, both nationally and globally?
Dr. Gupta from the University of Washington was on just after Biden's Rose Garden speech. And he said that with full vaccination, be it Moderna, be it Pfizer, 80% to 90% transmissions have been reduced. That's an astronomically, statistically impressive number. And it appears that the variant is also part of the mix, that if you're fully vaccinated, the variant may make you sick, but not to the point where it would be more severe than the original COVID. So be it South African or the UK variant, fully vaccinated individuals seem to be able to ward this off. And that's great news. That's, again, not only for the United States, but for the entire world. And I think that's, again, wonderful. President Biden, to be on the dark side, had to address that there's 580,073 deaths as a result of COVID. And if you look at that number, it's not a number. It's, as Joe Biden very well portrays it. I mean, no president can discuss grief better than Joe Biden, because he's lived certainly a great deal amount of grief in his life. But he did an excellent job on talking about the impact to the American family and to the world and their families and friends that are no longer with us. So this is a this is a breath of fresh air and a bright light that we now get to experience. And I think the more vaccinations that take place, the better. I think on the dark side, what I think is a shame is that Americans have to be bribed to get the vaccination, where the rest of the world is clamoring for their first dose. And what does it make Americans look like when they have to enter a lotto for $1 million every other day, or they get the free hamburgers or the savings bonds in different states to incentivize Americans to get something that the world is clamoring for and they can't get. Again, is this showing the Americans in a very bad light, I think.
Stephanie, there was a program on MSNBC last night. It was a special about vaccinating America, and it had Fauci and Health and Human Services and Dr. Murthy, the Surgeon General, on there, among other people. They had actually one of the scientists who developed the Moderna vaccine also. And what Fauci said that stuck in my mind is that we don't know where the point is where we reach what do you call it?
The herd immunity.
We don't know exactly where that is, and that's still, it's still in play. We haven't reached it yet. We don't know when it'll happen. We just have to watch out for it. It's like maybe you got it. You have herd immunity when there's no more cases, I guess. But what troubles me is that we don't have 100% vaccination, and they were out there pitching as hard as they could, essentially on behalf of the administration, which is involved in a big advocacy to get people to take the vaccine, because we don't have everybody. And, Tim said 60% of the people have been vaccinated and the others have not. Many of them, and we can cover this, don't take it because Trump has given them messaging that, suggests they shouldn't take it. Or maybe there's some kind of combination of religious and, white supremacy, and I don't know what kind of, strange cockamamie theories people come up with. But the question I put to you is, don't we need to work on this more? I'm afraid of complacency. Complacency kills. And if we stop vaccinating and people stop vaccinating, and those who are, quote, hesitant, end quote, what should the government do about them? How important is that? And let me ask you another question in the bunch here. Should we now have vaccination passports? I always thought we should, but what about now?
I think that it has crossed my mind often, but I think that we can't mandate that because of our system, our way of wanting to be in the world. I mean, China can do that and other countries, but I think that Fauci owes us some more discussion about when is it okay? So what is the measles number, and what is whatever we already know, polio or what have you. So he was. I just thought that was a new wrinkle in this whole thing, which disturbed me, because if we don't know until we get there, and what are the criteria for getting there? So actually, he opened a door there, and I think he needs to walk through it and do a lot more education of us. But I agree. I think that the federal laws are still in place on the airplanes and public transportation. So there is still a caution and a reluctance to let go of these bigger rules that we have to follow. And I agree with you. It is worrisome. And it doesn't mean we're out of the woods at all. I mean, because a hotspot can come up anywhere. And
would you require it in your business if you could? Would you call for passports?
I like the passport idea, and I haven't quite understood why that is onerous. That seems to be onerous to many, but I like that passport idea. That even have to show it to get on the bus, like or like your driver's license. So what we should get on with that and make sure that is one way we have of checking. It is. We're in kind of a no man's land because no one knows. If Fauci says no one knows when we're going to hit the magic percentage to have immunity, and there's still people who aren't vaccinated. So I think we're going to have to do some more reading, or I'm going to need to read more about how he was convinced that this was the time to take it all off.
Cynthia, I'm going to let you and Winston share a question, which is, I think, very complex. So Biden promised, the vaccinate 100 million Americans within 100 days. And he's actually done a pretty good job at that. He's achieved that, and he's still trying to achieve more. Trump has got a funny message on this. He tells his base, you don't need to do it. Anybody who wants you to do it is asking you to, is engaging in unconstitutional behavior, whatever it is. So here we are. We have seen the light at the end of the tunnel. And my question to you and Winston is, how does this change the political landscape? This is a remarkable event, as Tim pointed out. How does it change the political landscape? Biden has achieved something. This all shows you how completely inept Trump was in his year of doing nothing. But how does it change, for example, the way the base or other people think about these two potential candidates for president next time around? How does it make the GOP look?
Oh my, that's a really big question. Well, let's see. How does it change politics? I don't know if it changes it that much. I know it makes the Republicans look really bad because they're willing to throw their own people under the bus because they know, the politicians know the danger of this this COVID. They know this virus. They know the statistics. And the fact that they don't share that with their constituents is just dangerous. And I think it puts them at risk too. I mean, it endangers their life. So I know that America is, the US is the worst. We have the worst statistics of anywhere. Before coming on this morning, I started looking at some statistics. The US, our total deaths, well, according to where I looked anyway, was 597,969, a little over what President Biden said.
Remember, only a few days ago, Fauci said he thought we'd reached 900 by the time we were finished. So this is a kind of, turnabout in a way, isn't it?
Yeah. And we're still going. I mean, it's like, wait a minute. Okay, so we hear all this talk about India right now. India's so bad. So many people are dying. I was really surprised to see that they have way more, they have way less of the total cases and total deaths also. Their deaths are only 262,000 and their total cases is 24,031,730. Ours are 33,598,285. But we are up by 12,149 in one day. They're up 328,898 in one day. So we were up 184 deaths in one day. They were up, like we were just not very many months ago, 3,693. So will they catch pretty quickly? Maybe. Will they catch us very quickly if we get those vaccines in people? No, they will.
Okay, well, that's why Biden and everybody on MSNBC was pitching last night. Winston, we're getting a little tight on time. Can you answer the question as far as you're concerned? How does this change the political landscape?
Well, the people that weren't going to get it, it doesn't matter. They're not going to get it. Those of us that did get it, I don't know that it's going to change the political landscape at all. It seems like we have 35% of the population, according to the CDC, is fully vaccinated. 46% has received one dose. So we're not even at 50% yet. If you're out there and you're an anti-vaxxer, you're just not going to wear your mask. And if they ask you, you're just going to lie. You're going to say, I got vaccinated, because you don't want the grief. You could go full Karen, but what to what avail? You don't need to go full Karen anymore. You can just lie and say you got your vaccine.
No, but I'm asking about, the fact that Trump and the Republicans didn't do anything during that year until now, and they're not helping now either, for that matter. I mean, how does it affect public opinion about them, as will be revealed in the 2022 and 2024 elections?
Well, I think you could look at survey numbers about Donald Trump and his response to the virus, and you can look at Joe Biden's numbers right now, and Joe Biden is kicking butt. That's one of his highest numbers at all.
Will it have an effect on the election?
The election is a long way away, and we've got work to do right now. So let's let tomorrow's troubles take care of themselves. We got enough right on our plate today, and so still wear your mask out there, people. Because a lot of scared people still. Hawaii, we're better than everybody than the other states.
There's a lot of people who are still have concerns. Cynthia, you had your hand up.
I just wanted to add one thing, and that is a lot of the Trumpers in the South that I sort of keep a pulse on are saying that the vaccine was made by Trump. That Trump is the reason we have the vaccine. Yet they're so twisted within themselves that they also say they won't get it.
Well, if you're dealing in a world of lies, then you don't know exactly what's going to happen. Tim, I have a letter, a question from a viewer for you, and this actually takes us to the 50,000 foot level, where all of this fits. Okay, so I'm reading it verbatim. COVID-19 is reaching its end, but the news is not getting any better. We have people hacking our gas supply, news about Palestine. When we leave quarantine, are we actually entering a better world? Well, that's kind of a fragmented question, but I think the essential question I would like to pose to you is where does this fit in a world of threat, in a global environment where dictators are becoming more popular, violence is becoming more popular, hacking is making us very vulnerable. Where does this take us, in your view?
From my stratosphere viewpoint, the world always has been filled with chaos. Where we have ebbs and flows where the chaos seems to be greater, and you be there for the United States or the world as a whole, be it World War II, World War I, armed conflicts, whether we have pestilence and hunger and poverty, as you mentioned, climate change. I think the secret is to this question is that we bring together the intellect that our Creator gave us to provide the intellect to join together with our fellow human beings to provide technology solutions to many of these common problems, to bring our humanity, to bring our compassion. And we're never going to solve the problems of the world. We're never going to make a perfect world. All we can do is try to improve it and make it the best possible. But by working together and not being polarized by our would-be dictator politicians that want to divide us. So there is hope. And to whoever asked this question, you can look at the world as a horrible place or an optimistic place. Half full, half empty on that glass of water. Go with the half full because life will be better for you.
Yeah, the point is that technology and good, solid, reasoned leadership has solved a huge problem, at least for the most part. Not to say that it's gone forever, but we have demonstrated an ability that we questioned. Last year, we questioned we'd ever come out of this. And so if you take that same analysis to other problems, for example, climate change, maybe there's hope for us on other fronts as well. Okay, it's time for our 1 minute wrap up thing. Let's go to you, Cynthia, 1 minute to tell us what is going to happen, the state of the world, the state of the country.
Well, let's see. Let me put on my little thinking cap that's going to tell me all those things. I can pray for peace, and I can pray for hope, and I can pray that people will try to learn the truth of things instead of just being constantly fed whatever thing that's comfortable for them to listen to, and that they would go out and try to broaden their horizons and learn about everything instead of just having tunnel vision.
Okay, Stephanie, what is your thought, and for that matter, your advice to everyone, all 330 million of them in this country?
I think I'm more aware of how many people we've lost, how many populations are indeed reduced because of this pandemic and people's passing from it. On the other hand, the planet's renewed. I mean, we can see that in Hawaii. I mean, Hanama Bay is transformed. I mean, so I'm sure there are many examples of that across the nation. So there's the two-sided coin, and so nature has offered us a challenge, and we stepped up to it and have a vaccine, and we gave the Earth a break. So we're part of the universe, and this is a part of the cycle, and we need to be aware of it and continue, as has already been stated, to work hard on our technological promises and efforts to make the world a better place for everyone, and not have to have a pandemic to keep it healthy.
Yeah, and Winston, I think inherent in what Stephanie is saying is that we have to respect science. We can't put the lie to science. What are your thoughts?
Everybody's so darn optimistic today. I can hardly stand it, but I'm gonna pile right on. I think what Tim, Stephanie, Cynthia said, this last year, we got and the last 4 years before that gave us a really hard look at where we have come up short, where we've gone wrong, because it was so glaring, so ugly. And then we were given COVID, and there's the gift of COVID. There was the gift of Donald Trump. And if you look at the gifts there of what was exposed, where we need to shore up, how we need to, what institutions, where are we lacking in our society? This was a wayfinder map, as it were, and the same for COVID. It's because perhaps we've been destroying these natural areas such that animals and humans are mixing together. It's given us a breather to look at how and what and why we're doing everything. And from this, we can hopefully step back, reassess, and then recommit ourselves to coming up with the best solutions possible, just like this nation always has. And I remain remaining bully on America, and I think we got a wonderful president right now who's leading us. I don't want to say to the promised land, but to brighter days ahead. So I'm going to join in with all of you in optimism.
Oh wow, what a day, a special day. So Tim, you're at the close. Why don't you summarize everything that's been said and suggested, and give us your thoughts?
It's a monumental task, Jane. I'm not up to it, but I will do this. I would like to chime on to something Winston said, and that is, we can let things divide us. And Biden said this perfectly during his Rose Garden speech. He said, we've had too much anger, too much polarization about masks, but we've also had too much polarization and anger about the election. And we've had too much polarization about racism. We've had too much polarization and anger about immigration, about all the political ills that face this country and the world in their own way. It's time to look for those who wish our politicians and our leaders to unite us, and discard and throw in the trash bin those leaders who wish to divide us. Simple as that for me.
Okay, and I would add only this. You heard it before. The price of liberty is eternal vigilance. Complacency has no place in a democracy. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you, Winston. Thank you, Stephanie. And to see you next time. Aloha.
Aloha.